Welcome back everyone to Stellar Blade Part 3 of our milestone hourly review. We are hour 10 to 17-ish right now, and this one is a bit more deeper than the last ones. Not just in tone, but in the questions that the game started asking me. Questions I didn't expect to still be thinking about after I put the game down for this stretch, and some of them I'm still not done thinking about. So after Zion opened up, the game sent us underground into the subway system of Matrix 11. The subway does what every good abandoned underground level tries to do, and I mean, it pulls it off, you know? The enemies here are parasites, small creatures that take over dead corpses on the ground and reanimate them. When you kill the host, you have to finish off the real parasite before it finds another body to crawl into. Some of those bodies are carrying grand swords, some have steel beams, and some just charge up what I can only describe as a Dragon Ball Z mud ball. Disgusting, but it's pretty mechanically interesting and pretty annoying when something you've already killed just keeps on getting back up because you forget to kill its host. Now, the first alpha Natiba of this chapter felt surprisingly easy, and I don't think the game made it easy deliberately though. I think all the side quest combats just quietly made me better without noticing, and that's a pretty good sign. But the part of the subway that stuck with me wasn't the enemies, it wasn't the combat, it wasn't all the arsenal that I had to use, it was what was left behind. Because deeper in there were old quarters where people used to live. Small rooms, beds, little amusements. It was evidence of a life built underground, just trying to feel normal while the world above was just getting annihilated. I don't know why looking at all that made me kind of sad, not in a dramatic way, but like quietly sad, but because everything looked cozy, hopeful even, like people had really tried to make something warm out of a terrible situation, and we could see that through the scenes that they were showing us, and everyone who lived there is just gone now. The accumulation of small human details, it's kind of harder than any cutscene that we've seen yet. And there were notes down here from people saying that the last city doesn't exist or it's impossible to find, so they had searched and found nothing. People died looking for Zion, never found it. Now, before the main part of this main quest, there was a Juggernaut, a boss that introduced us to the burst mechanic properly. It's pretty fun. So burst moves accumulate mostly through dodging rather than hitting, which gives combat a completely different rhythm. You basically do dodge build unleash, which feels really good. Then came the main centerpiece of this story. Tachy's back. And yeah, basically we hear a scream while we were still in the subway, now heading down to the sewers. And deeper in the sewers, we find Tachy. She is back, but this time as an alpha Natiba. And of course we have to fight her in order to save her. Now, the fight itself was generally one of the better encounters. It had cool mechanics, it got a good rhythm, but the emotional weight of having to kill her to save her didn't land as heavy as I expected. I think it was a pacing problem because maybe I've spent a lot more time outside of that intro, but other than spelling out her name 1-2 times, we didn't spend enough time with Tachy before she disappeared at the start. So when she returns like this is some tragedy is more intellectual than emotional, because I understood it was sad, but I didn't feel that it was sad. Though after defeating her and after that moment, what we carried forward was her form. We basically get an ultimate, a limit break, that gives Eve her wings. And her moveset. And all of this makes you completely invincible, not invulnerable, you can still get hit, but you don't take any damage while it's active. You know, it's poetic in its own way, as Tachy is now gone, but her power lives through Eve through every fight. Now coming out of the subway, our next destination is the Great Desert. And the Great Desert is humbling in a completely different way from the Wastelands. Yes, they are kind of similar, which I do kind of criticize this game for. Like, why do we have two deserts? But it's fine. Over here, enemies hide under the sand and burst out when you get close, which is already stressful, but when the area had no power, meaning no rest points and no way to get your health items back, by the time I reached the boss near the power tower, I had nothing left, and I finally died to another boss because I only had one heal. Though my second attempt, I came in, restored, and used everything, and then I used the Tachy Form for the first time, and it was pretty good. And during this fight, I did notice I used everything. I used the burst, I used the SP moves, I used all the gun arsenals that I had, I used the sword, I used the Tachy Form. The fight made me realize something about how this game handles combat balance. So to get through harder encounters now, I generally had to use everything that was available to me. Not because the game forces you, but these options exist, and choosing when to use them is kind of the whole point. A better player could probably be cleaner about it and use less resources, but the game respects you enough to let you decide when you want to use everything. The desert also brought another surprise, the NeiR Automata collaboration through Emil's shop. Outfits and hairs from that universe available for Eve. Following the NeiR Collab earlier, it's pretty good that these crossovers are quite clear. Given my outfit change every major arc rule, the timing was kind of good, though I do not use collab during the story. During my side quests, I do like to fiddle with them. Talking about side quests, then came Digger, officially Digger. So Digger basically wanted to know more about itself, why it thought differently from its counterparts. And through helping it, we learn about what egos are. Basically, it's the idea that consciousness isn't something you're born with, but it's something that forms through experience and learning. Digger had developed one itself, even though it was not supposed to. We also learned that Eve was given an ego through a fast method of experience and learning, like transferring data to someone. So we were basically sitting there watching a robot ask itself whether it could be considered human because it had developed a sense of self. And I realized that the game had been building up to this question the entire time, because what actually makes someone human in this world? Is it biology? Is it memory? Is it consciousness? The game doesn't answer it directly, but it does keep on adding pieces and letting you sit through the weight of them all. Because here comes an important part. A lot of the stretch involved delivering memory sticks, which by now I understood what they were properly. Memory sticks are not just data, they're actual memories and consciousness of the deceased. Bringing one to someone is bringing them proof that that person is now gone. Closure in a small chip. Let's take the shopkeeper's example. Kaya's sister, Kara. Kaya had been waiting for his sister all this time, and until we finished her mission and found Kara's body and took her memory stick, the memory stick let Kaya stop waiting for his sister because she knows what has happened. But there was this one case that genuinely unsettled me. There was a woman who didn't distinguish between a memory stick and an actual person, and having the memory stick was just enough for her. So she murdered the man, and to her, that person was still there in her own way, and that's all that mattered. Now, more on what is humanity, because that seems to be the main point of this game. Let's go to Enya's storyline. She was one of the first side quests that we could get. Now in this storyline, we knew something was off, because out in the desert we find an old opera house, and inside it we got everything we needed to know. Basically, the Enya that we know is an artificial Enya. She's an android, built specifically so that the original organic Enya could live in some sort of form in the future. Her personality, her memories, her sense of self, all transferred to this synthetic body while her real body is deceased. Standing in the opera house looking at what remained of her original life, knowing that the person we'd been helping this whole time was carrying someone else's entire existence inside of her, that landed kind of different than I was expecting. Because it wasn't sad for Enya, it's just made me think of what is everyone in Zion. Everyone we'd met, everyone who felt real, what is humanity? That is the whole question of this game. Because this was the moment that the game stopped hinting that the humans in this world are synthetic beings. Now after the side quests of this stretch, we come to Abyss Levoire. Yup, just like the first Levoire, this one's Abyss Levoire. My first reaction was, damn, we're doing this again. It's the exact same setup as Altus Levoire. No blade, only the gun, and there was even a guardian in the beginning too. But I guess this time I was ready. The horror element did not get me in the same way because I knew the rhythm of these places by now. The jump scares tried, but it didn't really land. To the game's credit, it wasn't completely identical. While Altus was claustrophobic and dark, Abyss was more of a parkour-ish kind of place. Different puzzles, different navigation challenges. The design wasn't that lazy, but I guess it was more like a deliberate mirror with different movement demand. The final boss being essentially the same encounter as before though, that was kind of a bummer. One thing of course did stick with me because going through Abyss Levoire we get more lore, and lore is what keeps me going. First of all, how do these legacies keep on appearing exactly where I need them? Story-wise, it feels like someone deliberately planted our roots so that we could get here. Now, the legacy that we find here is the big one. Basically, we find Raven in the legacy again, and she tells us that Mother Sphere was created by a man called Raphael, and Mother Sphere created the Androidos, the beings that eventually declared themselves the new humans. Everyone we see right now is an Androidos, and for a time organic humans and Androidos coexisted. Then Mother Sphere initiated a war and the organic humans lost. The few who survived went underground into Levoirs, and desperate and hiding and running away and out of options, they made a choice. Choice was to experiment on themselves to trigger their own evolution. They evolved so fast to fight back that they became Naytibas. Every monster we have been killing the entire time has been a human. Chose to give up their humanity because they saw no other way. And here's where I got stuck. Because was it really the only choice if you're underground? Hiding, watching your species disappear, and the enemy you're fighting might not even know the full truth of what they're doing. Is mass self-experimentation really the only answer? Become a monster just to survive? I get it. The speed of that evolution, the urgency of it, the will to survive, that's what created something unrecognizable. But they didn't just do that to survive. They broke themselves in doing so and lost the very thing they were trying to protect. For now, that's the question this game does not answer, but those are the types of questions that just keeps me going. Now Eve knows all of this. She came here with a mission to find the elder Naytiba and eliminate it, to save humanity. But what is humanity? The Androidos? Can't be the Naytibas, right? Because they've lost their humanity. Eve doesn't know either. She just wants answers from the colony, from Mother Sphere, the elder Naytiba, who we know now used to be human. And at 17 hours in, I honestly do also. And this is what a good story does. It makes you need to know how it ends. Not because of what happens in the next gameplay, but because the questions themselves won't leave you alone. So hours 10 to 17 were hectic. It was a spectacle from beginning to finish. There was not a single scene that made me want to stop, thus getting me all the way to the point of no return. The game just kept on adding weight through small sad rooms underground, through a robot asking if it was human, through a woman who may have killed someone just to keep their memory intact. And through an opera house that confirmed what we'd been suspecting for hours, slowly and carefully, till I looked up and realized that I was carrying the answers that I was wondering myself for the first 15 hours, because we're at the point of no return. And the finale is next. Whatever comes after that, I'll see you guys on the other side.